Welcome to Editors on Editing. I am your host, Glenn Garland. It is my great pleasure to speak with Brent White tonight. Brent has edited many of the best comedies of the last 10 years, including Anchorman, The 40-Year-Old Virgin, Knocked Up, The Heat, and most recently, Anchorman 2. To these and other immensely enjoyable films, he has brought not only amazing comic timing, but heart, drama, suspense, and action. Brent, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Sure.
Really appreciate it. So you got started doing a lot of TV and ended up working on Freaks and Geeks and then Undeclared and got in with Judd Apatow through that. Did that sort of lead to Anchorman? Or
That's exactly what happened when Judd moved out of TV and when McKay was going to direct Anchorman. He didn't have an editor, and so Judd just put my name in the hat, and that's how I got the gig. And from that opportunity that I got from Judd, you know, I've been able to work and cut all of Adam McKay's movies that he's directed in all of the movies that Judd's directed.
Now, I've seen Adam McKay on some of these behind the scenes, and he just seems like he just throws out lines, and he's just very quick. How is your relationship in the cutting room?
We just play. He sits on the couch, I sit up here, and we talk about sports and politics and movies and comic books and all these things that we love and are, you know, connected to. And then sometimes we'll do a little work. And so,
speaking of Anchorman, there's this commercial about the team. It seemed almost like I was watching a commercial from the 70s. Did you like watch a bunch of different commercials to get a feel for that? Or?
We had some stuff around of the news at that time, the big walking shot and the loose looks and everybody turns to camera. And so it was just kind of what's the most economical and funny way that we can do that idea.
It seemed like there's a lot of ad-libbing going on. You've probably got 10 great lines for the same thing.
You really watch the material and you go, oh my gosh, that is a crazy funny joke. And so I got to get to this joke. How do I connect it? And so basically what I'll do is that I will cut sometimes 3 or 4 or 5 versions of the scene. And
just show to the director.
Just explore that joke. Like this joke and this joke don't go together. And so I have to figure out what's the way to kind of rewrite that version of the movie.
60% of the time, it works every time.
That doesn't make sense.
Well, let's go see if we can make this little kitty purr.
We do a lot of previews and seeing what the audience responds to. And
do you listen to the previews?
I take the laugh track, I bring it back to the cutting room,
oh, wow.
I lay it up against the movie, and so I can go back and literally look at how it did the joke in the first screening, and then look at it in the second screening, and look at it in the third screening, and see, well, you know, I've made an adjustment here, I got a little better laugh, but I made another adjustment here, and it's completely gone, or I've damaged it somehow.
I don't know how to put this, but I'm kind of a big deal.
Really?
Didn't get a laugh in the screenings, but now it's like a catchphrase, and
sure.
It's on T-shirts and all that kind of stuff. And it came later, and sometimes people, you know, will come up and say, you know, I saw the movie, and we laughed, and the audience was laughing, and I missed the next thing.
I don't know what we're yelling about! You're with us, Ron. What do you think? It's terrible! She has beautiful eyes, and her hair smells like cinnamon! Loud noises!
I want you to miss things so that you'll look at it,
see
it again. And so that when you see it at home and it's just you on the couch and you're not surrounded by 300 other people, then you pick up on those things, those contextual things that we've kind of placed inside the movie.
I read somewhere that their periods attract bears.
I think that's what makes the movies last over time, that people will go back to them.
I love Baxter. That relationship works so well, but that must have been really hard because they say one thing to never have in a movie is dogs and kids.
Wow. You know how to cut to the core of me, Baxter. You're so wise. You're like a miniature Buddha covered in hair.
Baxter's such a blank slate. You can actually almost do anything with Baxter.
Sure.
And it's really Ron's genius that makes Baxter play the way that he does. When Jack Black kicks Baxter off the freeway, it's like this.
Excuse me, what are you doing?
It's a silly stuffed animal, and yet I get this huge response, and people would just like elevate out of their chairs.
You just like you grow to love Baxter, and it's so unexpected that he's like because he got a burrito.
You can't do that. And you know, in the first version of Anchorman, Baxter didn't come back. We would test, and we would get this note like, "Where the hell's Baxter?"
Did you have to reshoot stuff for the Bears?
Yeah.
And did you ever put like subtitles earlier?
No, we never had subtitles until the very end, and then all of a sudden, me and McKay were doing the lines.
You hold that information back and then reveal it at the end, and it's just, like because it's between animals. You know, now we have the subtitles.
And it's just another level of play between me and Adam.
A scene that I really loved the cutting on was the jazz flute.
Yep.
And how he's just popping up in the bathroom, and he's popping up all over the place. And then even with the blowing of the fire, you flopped 2 shots so that he blows this way and then he blows that way.
Yep.
Tell me about cutting
Just trying to get more laughs. Just literally greedy. Oh, that's funny. They laughed at that. How can I get another? How can I just squeeze another laugh? It's just greed. And you can get too greedy. And we've been there in that place where, well, there we are. We wanted that extra laugh. It's not really there. They're done. They're done. We need to move on.
Like a scene that I love is when he's got the erection.
So I pick you up 8 o'clock? 9. Downstairs.
Mr. Burgundy, you have a massive erection.
Really?
The reason why it gets so many laughs is because it just keeps coming back.
Won't let go of it.
It seems like that's something that Will and Adam do a lot, where it's like they just repeat the joke a lot, and it gets funnier and funnier and funnier because it's being repeated.
And that becomes also becomes part of the game. So I get the first one, I get this laugh in here, and then can I get it to here, and can I just get them to just be crazy funny?
Nothing to look at. Don't act like you're not impressed.
And then the Bloodfest Rumble
Great.
is amazing.
much
Tell me
fun.
about cutting that together. You've got
and
Ben Stiller coming in, you got
just
guy on a horse. I mean,
know.
it must have been hard to juggle because there's so many different...
Yeah, Tim Robbins cuts off Luke Wilson's arm, and that becomes, for these big action things, how do I make you experience it in a brand new way that you never would have thought?
So, 40-Year-Old Virgin, did you have any idea it was going to be such a huge hit? I mean, it was Judd's first movie.
It was. Once we saw Anchorman, we knew that Steve Carell was going to be a star, and we just had to figure out how to present him to the world. He plays it in such an amazing, wonderful way that you're
it's
really
very
in
real.
his camp.
But there's so many uncomfortable scenes that feel very real, like when his coworkers find out he's a virgin.
Yeah.
Are you a virgin? Are you a virgin?
Yeah, not since I was 10.
It all makes sense. You're a virgin.
There is a thing, I call it the Apatow pause. It's like this moment, and we stretch it, and we love it. It's like this moment where you get a real sense of uncomfortableness.
Mm-hmm.
Judd literally like, it's got to be a little longer. And my feeling sometimes is like, oh, no, they're never going to last that long. They're never. But what it does is it creates this tension that as you make that pause longer and longer and more awkward and more terrible, then when the laugh comes, it's 3 times the laugh that it would have been if you'd cut it sooner.
Ah! Hey! Tell me what you gonna do.
Really early on, there's this scene where Steve's got on this members-only jacket, and he's confronted with all these sexual images, and he's having a hard time with it. And the big note that we got from the studio was, we've got to do something about Steve. I mean, look at his hair and look at that jacket. He looks like a serial killer. But that's kind of okay. But no, he can't. We can't have him. You can't have him do that. So there's a scene that follows that.
You were nice to me.
I kind of thought you were a serial killer.
And so now once you've said it, you've just taken it right off the table.
It could have ended right
Yes.
when they kiss.
Yeah.
Judd likes keeping his movies a little bit, they're close to 2 hours
I know.
or over.
I get so much crap for how long Judd's movies are.
But then the wedding is amazing, especially like that one scene where they're in bed. I don't know if it was scripted this way, but then the card that says 1 minute later is just beautiful. Was that something you had thought of, or it was scripted?
We
or?
had several different ideas for that card, but the 1 minute later gets the best laugh.
It's
Yes.
classic.
Yeah.
And then you think, okay, then it's going to be over. And then they have this Age of Aquarius, which is amazing. Talladega
That's 'cause
Nights.
it's-
That movie has some of the best driving scenes. There's so much great action cutting. Tell me a little bit about working on that.
It was really fun. There is so much power in cutting those sequences. And it becomes the thing that you want to make it work in a way that when you show the comedy, like where do you lose the audience?
So it almost gives
Just-
it a breath of to get away from the comedy.
to get away
for a
from
little
the
bit?
comedy, but also the other thing works it on the other side of it to get the same rhythms and the same kind of things that happen in the comedy, so that they're connected, and so that the race scenes don't just become noise.
Dear Lord, baby Jesus, or as our brothers to the south call you, Jesus, we thank you so much for this bountiful harvest of Domino's, KFC, and the always delicious Taco Bell.
What's great about that scene is that it happens really early in the movie, and so you're able to let things lay out a little bit. Because if that scene had happened at the end of the movie when you're trying to wrap things up, it could never be as long as it is. And you could never get ham-fist all those jokes into it.
We just thank you for all the races I've won and the $21.2 million. Woo! Woo! Woo!
But because of where it comes in the movie, it's one of those moments
can
where
play
you're
it
able
out.
to just lay out and just have some fun with it. We have this moment in Talladega where they crash, and the crash goes.
Oh, it's huge.
It's really, really
It
long.
looked like you had 20 cameras.
There was a lot of cameras, and it was like a big stunt, and we're so like in love with our shots and the slow-mo and the pieces coming off the car and stuff. And so we get this note from NASCAR. It says, you've got to fix that crash
Because people are gonna die.
people are gonna die. I took a little tiny Applebee's commercial and cut it into the middle of that car wreck.
Let's take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back.
Hungry for both steak and shrimp?
And what it did was, it actually made that car wreck even longer. I opened it up on
Sure.
both sides, but because I called attention to it, it just made it that much more funny. Because now
Because it seems like it's going on
forever, and that's the point.
and
That's what
that's
I'm
the
trying
point.
to. And so by dropping that commercial in, we actually made it funnier and stronger and bigger, and we're able to actually just make it do whatever we wanted it to do.
Okay, but if you won, how am I gonna win?
Yeah.
Think about it.
I'm just kidding you, man. I don't want to win. I'll just bury it down inside.
Bury it deep down in there and never bring it up again.
It's painful, and I love you.
You can't say enough about Will and John C. Reilly and how good they are together. Their play, one with another, is really, really strong. And Step Brothers, when they were together, it's about how those characters rub up against each other that is so real.
Yup!
Now, if I get a bill and it's something like for
Funny People felt very real because you start off with footage from Adam
Oh yeah.
when he was young.
And then you see him wake up and get out of bed and walk to that balcony and look out over the Pacific Ocean and see his whole,
Well, it's the joy that he had.
Yeah.
And now that joy is sort of gone.
Yeah.
And then he sort of gets it back by seeing a young comic again.
And it's such a great piece of the movie, and it gives it kind of a great feeling.
There's one scene where they're on the phone, which is the hardest scene in the world to cut. You feel so much.
You see her in her world and him in his empty space, just pacing in front of the pool. I mean, it is this empathy that Judd really pulls out of people.
Do you want me to talk you to sleep?
Oh my God, you remember.
want me to do that for you?
You will talk to me while I try to go to sleep. I'll put you on speakerphone. That would be the best night of my life. Let's not go to sleep yet, though, please. Just talk to Laura.
Judd's movies are they're such a pleasure to work on in that respect because you really feel these people. Sometimes there are funny things that we take out of the movie because they get in the way of the emotion. And there's another crazy thing that Judd does that I really like is that he has an idea in his head, but he's not 100% sure about where it goes in the movie. And so he'll shoot the conversation between two people in one wardrobe so that I can put it at the beginning of the movie, another wardrobe so I can put it at the middle of the movie, or another wardrobe so I can put it at the end of the movie. And then as you create the movie and as you start to figure out what the animal is, then I know, oh, this is the perfect place for that idea.
In Judd's films, there's a lot of music choices too.
With a string you can tie a knot.
Sometimes the music's there before the movie's even shot. There's CDs of ideas or tones and things. And this is really great because if you can figure out what the movie sounds like musically, then it gives the movie a different rhythm or a different kind of feel.
I know you.
That scene where Eric Bana comes home.
Your husband's here.
The three of them are, there's this triangle and it feels really awkward.
And Seth has to be there and witness it.
No, stay. That's a great idea. More the merrier.
Wait! Oh, shit, Clark, dude! Are you okay, George?
Where's your stuntman now, hey?
Having that other observer
that dynamic
makes it sort of shows the craziness
who
of
doesn't want to be there and knows that this is a bad idea, and that's what really makes it work.
And then with the other guys,
it
has some
and the
amazing
other great
action scenes.
stuff, and it's really a bonus. We've got the funny thing down. Now, can we do that in the context of these other types of movies?
Did someone call 911? Holy shit!
The main titles, it's not only as big as any action scene that you've seen, but it's hilarious because you're almost topping those. I mean, how do you approach that?
His first assembly was 17 minutes long. And so, and it has to be 2 minutes long. And so there's so much great material. I can't do it all by myself. I have other guys that I work with who, cut scenes together and we'll bring people in just to cut certain ideas and stuff like that. And it's so valuable to have other people in the room and not be precious about everything, but just to let the room decide.
Well, it's nice that you're also not afraid to let other people, shine.
Because there's all these other things that come into the mix that I would never have thought of. If you put that there, that's really hilarious.
So it's like a writer's room almost.
It becomes a writer's room. And that's the other thing about editing, and that's what I love about editing, is that, I don't know, like a billion other people in Hollywood, I was going to be a writer. And that's the thing about editing that is so fascinating, is that using the material and the words and the structure to create this thing that will stand the test of time.
It's like the final draft.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of this, is that if I have a joke that doesn't work or an idea that doesn't work, I've got 12 things in.
And it'll be that much denser.
The bench is really, really deep, and I can bring somebody else up and put them in the game. And so as you collapse stuff, not only does it get funnier and tighter, but it also gets more dynamic and stronger. You're chasing these bad guys, and the bad guys take a zip line down to their car and they cut the thing, and then he says, "Well,
aim for the bushes."
And they jump off the building. There was a version of that where it was like 3 cuts. It was like they jump off, you see them in midair, and then you cut tighter and tighter, and then they hit the ground. But it wasn't as funny as if you follow them all the way down to the ground in one shot. And when they hit, it's genius, and the audience, they're so surprised and they love it.
You've got some nice push and zooms with the cuts.
That's just from playing. That's literally just
experimenting.
Yeah. And the other thing that we did on this movie and also on The Heat is we would preview in 2 theaters side by side. Here's the laugh that we had in the A screening, and here's the laugh we had in the B screening. These 2 different ideas, same spot in the movie, bigger laugh. And so we would literally pillage from the B screening and make the A screening that much stronger and that much better.
You do a lot of misdirection sometimes.
Okay? Hey, get out of the car, you asshole! Oh, God.
It comes out of nowhere because they're just joking around, and then something really violent happens.
It's timing. It's literally,
Sure.
it's like about the punchline. The explosion is the punchline. Where is the most effective place to put that explosion? And where does it get the biggest response? Laughter is like oxygen. And so the bigger the laugh, the larger the oxygen you have to get you to the next laugh.
I'm sorry. I gotta put it back in. What? I gotta put it back in.
And there's a take where she doesn't do it quite right. She doesn't do it
Oh,
hard
yeah,
enough.
she-
It's like it goes in, and, I'm sorry, and then she puts it back in, and it's like it was a mistake, and it wasn't supposed to be. But it's so.
Oh, was it supposed to go?
It was supposed to go in and just be solid. But
she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry."
It's like bang, and it's just so much funnier because it's like it was oops, ooh, bam, and it just like and that gives you that laugh. That's crazy
Because
big.
it's a little bit unexpected.
Yeah, Feig has this sense of like, like out of nowhere, violence can happen, and
Oh,
it
I mean,
gives
the tracheotomy.
I need a knife and a straw, please.
A knife and a straw, please. Why do you need a knife and
I
a
need
straw?
to because I'm going to perform an emergency tracheotomy. I'm going to need a glass of vodka.
Vodka. It's a ditty.
For sterilization.
Is just crazy because it's so violent.
I know.
But it's hilarious because it's so violent.
That's the thing that was always the one that people would go, oh, you got to take the tracheotomy out of the movie.
No,
you can't.
You can't.
It's such a big laugh. And as much as you groan and moan when you see it and the little blood and spurting and stuff like that, you love it. I know you love it because you laugh in such a kind of great way.
With Anchorman too, it's like the first sequel that you've done and Adam's done. Was that something that was in your mind? Like how do we satisfy the fans, or you just can't worry about that?
When they shot that first promo where they walk out from in front of the lights, it was like 3 months before they even shot the movie. They put those dudes back in their suits and just had them walk out and just say, Anchorman's coming. And they were them again.
Did you miss my hot breath in your ear?
There's gonna be submachine guns and boobies. Whammy.
Oh, it's gonna get stanky. And now it's my turn to talk.
It was so good to see them again.
Well, that's the thing. I mean,
And it was
these
so
guys,
nice.
you love
Yeah.
this group.
And because this is a sequel, you want to go bigger, better, or slightly different so that it doesn't feel like, completely rehashed. And that's the thing. You talk about Ron Burgundy and stuff, but this kind of comedy, this kind of ensemble comedy is really, it had been gone for a really long time before Anchorman came around.
The cruise control
Yeah.
scene when they're in the Winnebago and they're driving, and you keep on going to this wide shot where they're all talking and the dog's there too. Baxter's
Everybody's
listening.
there. Everybody's there and they're having a great time.
Nobody's driving. And you keep going to the shot. It gets funnier and funnier
Yeah.
the more times that you go to it.
In the audience, when you first go to it, the audience laughs and you go, oh, they see it. And then it just gets better. And again, it is about that stretching of that idea. And then when Fantana finally talks about cruise control.
Cruise control just regulates speed. It doesn't steer.
He says we're all gonna die.
The joke breaks and it breaks in a crazy great way. And we get this huge, amazing laugh.
And how were those visual effects of everyone floating?
we
were you involved?
Stole footage from Gravity.
Yeah.
That's all.
It's all green screen.
Yeah, it's all green screen.
I also like some of these technological inside jokes.
Yeah.
He's a weatherman, and he's always been used to seeing the map.
Yep.
He's dealing with green screen, and
Yeah.
he can't see his legs.
In 93!
Brick?
93!
Didn't know where they were going to do that joke. They thought that joke had been done. It was too. In fact, the pants that Brick is wearing have been spray painted, literally like with paint. And so you can see they're kind of stiff. And there are literally 7 versions of that scene. Each one is a completely different joke. And there's one like where Brick pretends to be a ghost. And you see the one in the movie where he can't stand up.
And then, of course, you have to have the street fight, which it's huge.
And it's
out of
great. It's
control.
so much more fun.
And I love how you intercut it with the piano recital.
Yep. Really kind of genius way to make the two things work at the same way. And the boy playing this amazing piece of music. And the music just fits so perfectly with the gang fight.
Was it always going to be intercut?
Yes. Yeah.
Tell us about the new head honcho.
Linda Jackson is a winner.
Rod Burgundy runs into his new boss. It's a woman. She's an African-American woman, and it throws them for such a loop. And
but everyone's smart enough not to say black.
Black. Black.
Ron.
Black.
Except for Ron.
Except for Ron. And it's
It.
crazy, and I really love that scene. And there are other scenes in the movie where...
Well, he goes to her house, and he decides he's going to speak jive.
Am I right? Say what?
How far can you go? And that literally becomes the other tenet of our comedy. Like, how far can I take something? Right to the moment where it goes, oh, that got out of hand.
That's inappropriate.
That totally. It's already inappropriate. And the problem is that Ron says things that are racist and politically incorrect.
Which one of you convicts with the longest record can pass me the mashed potatoes?
One scene that I thought was very funny is the interracial sex scene.
Sure.
It's something that you and Adam have done before where you go to stock footage. Was that scripted? Was that an idea that you had?
Most of it was scripted, and then it was just a matter of...
Who was the baseball
Jackie
player?
Robinson.
Jackie Robinson.
And then there's kissing. Yeah. But you know what? That joke doesn't work in Europe.
I bet it doesn't.
We had to do a completely different thing. We just pulled it out, and then there's another idea that we had that actually works just as well. So we just fixed it.
Yeah, because it's like the conch shell where he calls and you go to different animals reacting.
And those things, sometimes you just go and you steal stuff off the internet, and then you have to go back and figure out how to license them.
You're not black or Asian. What are you?
I'm gay.
Do you sleep in a coffin?
No, that's vampires.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and I thoroughly enjoyed this.
You're welcome.